whilst I was at Galibor, I took the opportunity to visit the nearest village, a place called Mutati, which was 9 kilometres away, along a continuation of the track we'd already come down, although it was even rougher going this way. And at the entrance to the park are these traps to prevent people coming in by car, poachers in particular. And in the back of the vehicle which we were in were these 2 little laddery jobs, specifically designed to fit across this little gap so that we could get out, lift them up, put them in the back of the jeep and off. But one of the guys was telling me they frequently find murdered people here, you know, just dragged into the park and dumped. But the major worry for them is people coming picnicking and leaving plastic bags about, which kills elephants. And when we got down to Mutati, if you saw the amount of plastic there was down there, it was just unbelievable. There was enough plastic to fill a bin wagon. There was tons of it all over the place. It was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace to see. You know, we think we have litter problems, but nothing compared to this place. And there was some kind of festival going on at Mutati, and the guide was very, very keen that I should see this, the local temple, his local temple in fact. This is Ganesh, as you can see by that elephant's trunk there. I think it's a Hindu god or Hindu goddess, not sure. But there was a big queue of women from the village waiting to present or give their little presentations or presents to this Ganesh, and he just shoved his way to the front, pushed them all out the way so we could go in, which I found a little bit unnerving, a little bit off-putting. But if that's their culture, then that's it, obviously. Men have greater priority, but things will change, I'm sure. And whilst I was in Mutati, I took the opportunity to go and visit the local school. Most of the kids were away because of this celebration, but these were there. Absolutely wonderful. They had nothing at all, but they were an absolute delight. What a joy to teach. And of course they were desperate to get an education, to lift them out of their own situation, and so that they had a chance of getting a job. But no books, no pens, just chalk and blackboard. No desks even, apart from the teachers. This was them in their classroom. They were a bit bemused. Suddenly this stranger appearing out of the blue in a vehicle. I think took them a bit by surprise, but it didn't take them very long to open up. The River Cauvery rises in the Western Ghat, which are mountains on the west side of India, and it flows right away across India and goes out to sea on the west coast. And this is a view of the River Cauvery upstream of Galibor camp. This is near a rather more upmarket posh camp called Bhimishwara, and you can see there lots of rocky outcrops and fast flowing water, quite streamy water there. And this was downstream from the camp. You can see the river there. This was a very, very deep section. Again, there were quite some rocky outcrops just downstream on the left hand side, which you can't see. But in between the rocky outcrops were deep gullies. The water in some places was 90 to 100 feet deep. And most of the big fish were caught on this stretch here, just downstream of a big rock called Crocodile Rock. And this was very near the bottom of the stretch. You see there the rocky outcrops, and And this is the camp where a group of young lads made the ruggy paste, and they lived here in a little canvas shelter, and they made the ruggy paste in that big pot in the middle. The bait we used was called raggy, and it's made from red millet flour boiled up. It's a sort of stiff porridge, is all I can describe it as. And this is where the lads who made the bait, they actually lived here in this little shelter during the dry season. You can see the River Cauvery behind there, and the surrounding very, very dry, scrubby bush type forest, which is an absolute haven for wildlife. Tremendous. These are the lads who made the raggy, and obviously boiling up this raggy every day, all day, needed a tremendous amount of firewood. And this is them with a coracle absolutely laden with the stuff. It just shows how useful these coracles were, bearing in mind just how flimsy they were. And they were paddled with that single paddle. I had a go at it, but I couldn't get it to go in a straight line. It just went round in circles, like a spinning top. So there's a fair amount of skill involved. And this is one of the lads who made the raggy. You can see great balls of the flour before it was boiled lying on that plastic sack behind him. And behind that is the fire with a big boiler there. And they spent all day making this stuff. Tons of it. But they were very, very pleasant, the lads. They were very nice. The raggy came in two forms. A sort of soft paste, which you can see there wrapped around the hook, which you cast in first of all. I think it was to tempt the Mahseer into the area, but it very, very quickly disappeared as every other fish in the river had a go at it. It didn't last 2 minutes. And you can see there just how thick the line is. And this is a hard raggy paste on a size 2.0 on a hook. You can see there by the shirt pocket behind just how big this thing is. It's about the size of a cricket ball, hair rigged. And that was what the big Mahseer were taking. And it's very much like barbel fishing. You just lobbed it out. Well, you didn't lob it out. You could do if you wanted to, but casting with a multiplier, and if you're not used to it, is a very, very difficult thing, and you tend to get great overruns and huge bird nests. But the guides were more than willing just to cast it to the right place, which was a great relief to me, because I'd spent ages in the garden slinging big weights using a multiplier and found it really, really difficult. I suppose it's just practice, really. But there it is. That's a boilie and a half, is that? When you arrived at your destination, you were either fishing from the bank, or you were taken out in one of these coracles, which is quite simply made from split bamboo, old rope, and old plastic tarpaulin. None of this buffalo hide which they mentioned in the guides. But they were very, very stable. And you sat on one of these little stools, and when you were sitting on them for 4 hours, it was very, very uncomfortable. Murder on your back, especially if you were holding a rod. So the picnic seat, which I mentioned earlier on, is a real bonus. Anything with a back to it was really worthwhile. And there you can see a new paddle. And they make these things themselves. There's 2 layers of tarpaulin, and in between is some bitumen, like roofing tar. They're very, very skillful at using them. Anyway, the day started very, very early. We were